Today I'm going to talk about the rising sign with the dreamiest eyes, the biggest heart, and the best taste in music. You guessed it. Pisces Rising is completing my rising sign series, and I will also take Jupiter, the traditional ruler of Pisces, through all 12 signs and houses. Let's take a look. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. To work with me, you can book a reading on anastasiadoesastrology.com. There's also a link down below. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe, leave me a like or a comment, show me some love. It helps YouTube bring my content out to more people, encourages me to put out more content, and is an overall a really great supportive thing that you can do. Before I dive in, I wanted to share with you that I have recently started creating magical candles and oils that capture the potent energy of the transit happening in the skies when they're created. We all know that the natal chart affects our personality, so similarly, you can elect a moment with the most benevolent astrological potential and capture it. So I chose to do candles and oils. And I wanted to recommend to all Pisces rising my Jupiter in Pisces candle, especially if you are Pisces rising with Jupiter in Virgo, Gemini, or Capricorn, because those are placements in which Jupiter struggles a little bit. And this candle can be beautiful for promoting confidence, optimism, and foresight. It can bring you good luck, it can bring you opportunities, and overall sense of well-being. And it smells like figs, so it also has a delicious scent. And I also have oils if you prefer that. And those you can find at the link down below or as well on my website. So Sun, Moon, and Rising are three focal points in every chart. The Sun represents your consciousness, the Moon represents your subconscious, your needs, and Rising sign represents the tools that you're given, right? I really like looking at the Sun as the main character and the Rising sign as the vehicle that helps this character get around, right? Like if you are Taurus rising, you will probably have some kind of flowery, beautiful boat. If you are an Aries, you'll have a rocket ship helping you get around. So of course, like, you know, the sun sign is the leading energy, but then the rising sign is like kind of the ship that you are given. And I have made a video breaking down Sun, Moon, and Rising and talking about what the difference is. Definitely watch that. As well as if you don't know your rising sign and you'd like to understand it better, you can book a reading with me or you can find out your chart on astro.com. There's a link down there. So let's talk about Pisces Rising and kind of general description of Pisces Risings. And rising sign always represents your physicality to some extent. It will describe what you look like, how you dawn on people, because rising sign or ascendant is literally the place where the sun is rising in the morning. So it has that quality of increasing energy. And Pisces rising have very kind of soft, ethereal, mermaidy look a little bit to them. They have large luminous eyes, usually kind of very like kind eyes. I think kindness is a very strong vibe you get from Pisces rising. They may have a sensuous mouth, like kind of bigger lips potentially, wavy hair, all like quite often kind of like wavy mermaidy hair, and well-shaped feet. So Pisces rules feet. So it's not like consistently all across the board, but feet can be an important feature of Pisces rising. Maybe their feet get colder faster, or, you know, they like stub their toes, or they just naturally have like really beautiful feet. They are very adaptable to other people and have this kind of like soft, changeable, shape-shifting, adaptable image and personality, right? So they can like mimic people and really get along with people quite easily. They, you know, that ability to mimic tends to give them like really good intuition and almost like psychic qualities where they feel the emotions of other people quite strongly. So they can be like very sensitive to their environment. and as a result either like, you know, protective of themselves, or like they can absorb the energy of other people, and their mood changes based on that, where they either feel uplifted or they feel drained and depressed, because their natural tendency is to care, their natural tendency is to give, to help, to improve, right? So it's really important here to be mindful with who you share your energy with, to surround yourself with positivity and light, because otherwise you can get too influenced by people who are not beneficial for you. Very compassionate, right? Very empathetic, very kind of sensitive and melancholic energy a little bit, where they can be brought to tears by seeing a hurt dog. But I mean, if you are not brought to tears by seeing a hurt dog, I don't know what's wrong with you. I mean, dogs are just the best. So, very, like I said, sentimental, very kind of easily moved by sad stories like lost animals, unhappy human beings, etc. They have, sleep tends to be really important for them, as well as daydreaming. They're likely kind of daydreaming a lot more than other people. And like, if, you know, if the Jupiter is well placed, if there are no other contradicting factors, like sleep will be very important, where like, even, you know, if everything is great, they might sleep longer. If like maybe Jupiter is compromised, like if Jupiter is in Virgo or Gemini, and you know, it's not a verdict if your Jupiter is in Virgo or Gemini, it just kind of tends to be a bit more complicated. And like I said, you can work with that in one way, is by purchasing a candle that has planetary magical properties. Or, you know, exercising before bed, or taking baths. I know it's a very complicated problem if you have sleep issues. Let me know how your sleep is, and are you happy? Like, is it an important part of your life? So daydreaming, sleeping, they have a rich imagination life. A lot of times there is a strong connection to art, or a strong artistic gift that comes out sooner or later. They have a really good taste in music, kind of very aligned with music. May even send songs to people they love potentially, and express affection through that. They love the good life, right? So there is like a lot of love for food, good food, drinks, and like on the negatives, there could be a tendency to overindulge, to overdo it, right? Like Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, and Jupiter is big and jolly and abundant. So taken the wrong way, there could be too much, and maybe they can struggle with addiction. So especially two examples of people who struggle with addiction with Pisces rising that come to mind are Whitney Houston and Demi Moore. Well, it's interesting because like Demi Moore has Jupiter in Pisces, and it's in the first house, so it's like really strong and really kind of dominant in her chart. But then we also have Gwyneth Paltrow, who is a Pisces rising, but her Jupiter is in Capricorn, which is considered to be in its fall, but she's very specific about what she eats, and she's kind of like a health nut, right? Like very health friendly. And you see the Jupiter in Capricorn energy showing up through like being a lot more structured and traditional and organized when it comes to her intake. There might be a sense of kind of being drawn to the past, right? Like feeling like they don't belong in this lifetime, or in this era, where like maybe they would have fit better in the 60s, or would have fit better in the Wild West, whatever it might be. Let me know if this resonates also, I'm curious. Of course, you know, Pisces energy of like kind of fluidity, sometimes it can be hard to pin them down. They can be a bit like lost at times, where maybe, you know, they promised you something, but then they got distracted watching a video, or they fell asleep. So that kind of Piscean energy can be quite visible in them. But what's interesting is that they have Virgo on their descendant, right? So this ascendant image that comes out the strongest is not always, in fact, it's not the full picture. Like your descendant matters quite a lot. So when you have Pisces on the ascendant, Virgo is your descendant. So in a lot of ways, you can be very like anal and organized and kind of self-critical, or critical of other people. and very kind of like disciplined and hardworking. So the kind of dreamy artist side of you is just one side. It's not the whole picture. A lot of times there's a fondness for kids, kind of love for kids, perhaps because Cancer is your 5th house, so you tend to feel close to them. And the final kind of, thing I'm going to mention is like struggle with boundaries. So that's, once again, I think the nature of Jupiter and yin Jupiter, right? Like in Sagittarius, Jupiter is young. It's a lot more in charge and kind of like decisive and has that masculine energy, versus in Pisces it's feminine Jupiter, so it's like absorbent of everything, every feeling, every pain, every kind of negative habit at times, or like every person's struggle. So like you really need to be good with boundaries. Are you good with boundaries? If you are a Pisces rising, let me know. And Pisces rising is actually one of the one of the more rare rising signs, because we have signs of the long ascension and the short ascension, and that means that Pisces is only on the ascendant for about an hour, versus the opposite, Virgo or Libra, stays on the ascendant for about 2 hours. Now let's take a look at Jupiter, the traditional ruler of Pisces, through all 12 signs and houses. I use whole sign system, so according to whole sign, all of your ascendant sign is the 1st house, and then the next sign is your 2nd house. So when I'm talking about these and I'm saying if you have Jupiter in Aries and it's in the 2nd house, all that means is that in whole sign it will always be in the 2nd house. If you're using Placidus system, I recommend you listen for the sign first and then compare it to the house placement and see which one resonates the most for you. As well as I am a traditional astrologer, so in traditional astrology, Jupiter is ruled by Pisces, sorry. In traditional astrology, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter and not by Neptune. Neptune is considered more of a co-ruler, but Pisces is so much more than just a Neptunian sign. If your Jupiter is in Pisces or your Jupiter is in the 1st house, Jupiter is strong here. Jupiter is the ruler here. It's the placement of Demi Moore. And it tends to be a very lucky, very benevolent, very kind of full of blessings placements. A lot of times it blesses the native with a good health. It means that even if you get sick, you may recover quickly. It's naturally supportive of you being very generous with other people, very generous with your time, and you can make a wonderful teacher. You can share your light with other people. You can be very kind of empowering and uplifting. And this is a very powerful placement for like a spiritual counselor, a guide, a guru. You also tend to be a lot more self-aware whenever the ruler of the 1st house is in the 1st house. Maybe you're more interested in your body, how it works, trying to understand your personality, kind of constantly growing and improving. And like I said, it could be a lovely placement for being a guide or a guru. Your career is likely to be really important to you, and professionally you're likely to be very accomplished, right? Because Jupiter also rules Sagittarius, and Sagittarius is your 10th house. But I think overall you tend to be like very optimistic, very uplifting, very positive. The danger here is, of course, like with Jupiter in the 1st house, is struggling with weight, struggling to lose weight, right? But a lot of people will kind of enjoy being in your presence and will find your just being next to you empowering. If you have Jupiter in Aries or Jupiter in the 2nd house, this is the placement Whitney Houston had. So Jupiter being the ruler, being in the 2nd house, being in Aries, is a sign that you are someone who's very focused on having financial security. You're also likely to have like strong beliefs, strong kind of ideas, and very perhaps like interested in being independent professionally, because this Jupiter in Aries rules your house of career. So you may be doing something professionally that's very kind of masculine and independent and requires you to go out there on your own. it tends to be very lucky financially, where you're not struggling with money. Things will be different if your Jupiter is in Aries and your Mars is in Libra, or your Mars is in Taurus, because of course everything in astrology is interconnected, and if your Mars is compromised or it's in a tough position, it becomes harder. But in general, Jupiter in the second house, Jupiter in Aries, will be good for money. Of course, Jupiter in Aries Jupiter in the second house is less interested in financial abundance, more so in spiritual abundance. So you may kind of value having good friends, having important relationships, having children as more significant to you. And making money through like travel, teaching, education is also quite likely. But yeah, I feel here is like independent, quick, fiery, financial energy. If your Jupiter is in Taurus, or your Jupiter is in the third house, a lot of focus of your life goes towards communication. I know I said it before in general, but I can see Jupiter here being a teacher, or like you making a really good teacher, because third house is the place of like, it's education, but it's kind of like pre-college education, so school education. So you're likely to be someone who is very kind of good at sharing your wisdom. And like I said, your focus will be on learning, communicating. You're likely to be very friendly, very good at getting along with people. Jupiter in the third is also very positive for being a business owner, or being an entrepreneur, like working for yourself as well. Jupiter in Taurus always makes me think of like finance, right? So working in finance or working as like a financial advisor is highly likely, because Jupiter rules your house of career. Having a job that requires a lot of interaction, a lot of short trips, a lot of writing is likely. So maybe you are a writer. And a lot of times Jupiter in the third brings a good relationship with siblings, unless there are other, things contradicting. And good luck when it comes to living in a nice neighborhood. Good luck when it comes to running in good people and kind of friendly people, knowing all of the hangouts, knowing all of the exciting spots. And financially, you're likely to be quite good, because Jupiter in Taurus rules like stability, money. I think this could be a blessing for sure. If you have Jupiter in Gemini, or Jupiter in the fourth house, Jupiter struggles in Gemini. It's considered to be in detriment. And there is this idea that Jupiter is the planet of unity, right? Jupiter wants to unite, understand, comprehend, and it's very spiritual. And Gemini is a sign ruled by Mercury. And Gemini has a tendency to take things apart, right? Gemini has a multitude of interests. It spreads itself in many directions. So Jupiter trying to unite, it's a bit harder to do when you have a million of interests. So Jupiter being in detriment means that you may struggle with figuring out your career, potentially, because Jupiter rules your house of career. And your home and family situation can be a bit chaotic, potentially. Maybe there is a question of like wrong morals or questionable morals. Sometimes family members can sort of guide you in the way that is not aligned with who you want to be. I would highly recommend, working with your Jupiter, and one of the ways you can do that is by getting a Jupiterian candle on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. In general, you are someone who is motivated by being kind of connected to family. You may really look like one of your parents, your mom or your dad. You may sort of be like very much like them. A lot of focus goes to spending time with people you love, building your nest. You may be working from home. You may be doing work that deals with families, right? Like maybe it's like social work, maybe it's real estate work, maybe it's some kind of family history writer or something like that. And Jupiter in the fourth can also be a sign of like living in bigger homes. But like I said, the fact that it's in Gemini, it may like kind of drop some challenges. It's not like a placement that you struggle with too much, but it definitely it definitely can bring, like, because Jupiter rules your first and your 10th house of career, there might be challenges in those areas if you have Jupiter in Gemini. But it can be worked with. Everything can always be worked with. For those with Jupiter in Cancer, Jupiter in the 5th house, this is an exalted Jupiter. So really powerful, really benevolent, and wonderful for creativity. Here, your focus in life goes towards art, towards self-expression. Funny enough, Billie Eilish has this placement, right? And it's going to say that, and Jupiter rules the house of career, Jupiter rules the house of self. So if it's placed in Cancer, your life is oriented towards doing creative things. It's also potentially oriented towards being a parent, spending time with children. You're likely to find even more joy in being a parent. Your life is, I think you're definitely called here to do things that are pleasurable to you. And of course, Jupiter in Cancer will appreciate relationships that are loving and familial. So part of what you enjoy doing in life could be connected to being in significant relationships, kind of building familial bonds, even if they're not familial always, even if it's your adopted family, right? You can be a teacher of arts potentially, or you can work as a teacher, like a children's teacher. And you are likely to gravitate towards like forms of recreation that can teach you something, right? Like theater, museums, travel, etc. For those with Jupiter in Leo or Jupiter in the 6th house, you are someone who is very work-oriented. You're very kind of focused on serving other people, helping other people, find a lot of joy in giving to others, right? So other people will see you as like very helpful, very responsible. Jupiter in the 6th will also make you aware of your body and potentially interested in health, in law. You can make a great judge here. You're likely to be someone, whatever you do, you will help people. Like 6th house is the place of those who are sick, those who are kind of struggling in life, and Jupiter goes there in order to help people. So you can make a great health counselor, teacher at like a medical college, lawyer, judge, definitely helpful for work matters, for good relationships with colleagues. It's Jupiter in Leo, so it's Jupiter in the sign of leadership, right? So you're likely to not just have focus on work, but you're also likely, you can be working for like a government institution, for a hospital or a university, and be in a leadership position. For those with Jupiter in Virgo or Jupiter in the 7th house, there's a lot of focus on relationships, right? Like Jupiter in the 7th house means you see yourself reflected in other people. You understand yourself through the process of relating, conversing, and engaging, and a lot of times sort of need that feedback in order to understand yourself better. Decisions can be made indirectly, right, as a product of feedback. There could be a lot of focus on your partnerships. The challenge here is that Jupiter in Virgo is considered to be in its detriment because Jupiter rules Pisces, and the sign opposite it is far away from the sign that it rules, so there's a bit more complicated relationship. And Jupiter wants to unite, Jupiter wants to comprehend, understand, it wants to kind of see the whole picture, and Virgo is all about analyzing, taking things apart. So if you have Jupiter in Virgo, you can struggle with self-criticism. You may struggle with like your optimism sort of shuts down and gets turned off if you get criticized. And like you need to learn that it's not always, the criticism is not always a negative thing. There's such a thing as constructive criticism. I mean, I'm a Virgo, Sun, Venus, and Mars, and I struggle with criticism, or I'm like also really critical of myself with Venus and Virgo. So you definitely want to be aware of that. And you can always work with Jupiter on Thursday, which is the day of Jupiter. You can kind of hang out with teachers. You can wear blue. I created candles for Jupiter in Pisces. Only have a few left, but this is like a powerful Jupiter that can be beneficial for anyone with Jupiter in Virgo, Gemini, or Capricorn. You're likely to be drawn to people who are Jupiterian as well. You may be drawn to those who are of a different culture, those who have something to teach you, something to share with you, someone like a partner who can be a guide, right? Always people who can help you grow, but they can struggle, you know, like I said, because this is Jupiter in detriment, there may be struggles in your partner's life where they struggle with criticism or they can be too hard on themselves. You may also encounter people like that in your career. You may kind of encounter very like critical, tough people professionally because Jupiter rules your house of career. So definitely focus on like working with this placement and kind of be aware of your own tendency to be negative, or like focus on the negatives before the positives. And get my candle at anastasiadoesastrology.com. If you have Jupiter in Libra or Jupiter in the 8th house, a lot of your focus goes towards hidden things. 8th house is mysteries and occult and kind of secrets and things that are intangible. So with this placement, you're likely to be highly intuitive. You can even have like qualities of connecting with the dead people, right? Because like 8th house is the place of death. And when you have the ruler of your first house in the house of death, like you may have some like special, extra special abilities. At the same time, you can also be like a healer. You can be a therapist. You can serve people going through tumultuous events, because 8th house is also sudden, unpredictable events, right? So Jupiter would want to uplift there. This is placement Ryan Gosling has, actually. And a lot of times with this placement, you can benefit through other people a lot, right? Like this could be a situation where you are working with an astrologer passes away and leaves you their database of clients. So all of the clients start coming to you. Or your partner wins a lottery, or your partner gets an inheritance. So you definitely here are likely to benefit through other people. And also be lucky when it comes to like inheritance, or when it comes to marrying someone who has wealth to them. Even if that wealth is not, I mean, I kind of think it's going to be like an actual material wealth, but sometimes it can also be about like having more spiritual wealth. And you can make a great like astrologer, a tarot reader, and you know, like be really great at uplifting people if that's something you're interested in. If you have Jupiter in Scorpio or Jupiter in the 9th house, here a lot of your focus in life goes towards travel, education. You become an eternal student. You may work in education, or your job may include travel, because Jupiter also rules your house of career. You may be very interested in religion. You may be very philosophical and kind of even go through transformations when it comes to religion and philosophy, because it's Jupiter in Scorpio. You cannot see Scorpio without transformation, right? So changes, growth, consistently questioning things, loving to travel definitely are the signs of this placement. Can be a very knowledgeable professor and teacher, someone that other people come to for support and guidance. You're likely to have very strong principles, be very moral, very kind of like high-minded, and have good luck when it comes to travel. Like there's good luck when it comes to travel, and potentially really great skills when it comes to learning different languages. So I'm curious if you have this placement, and if you do work in education or travel, or maybe publishing, or like legal matters are also sometimes a sign of the 9th house. If your Jupiter is in Sagittarius or it's in the 10th house, this is another Jupiter in rulership. So a very positive, very benevolent, very great placement to have. It blesses your health, it blesses your career. It means that you're likely to be happy with what you do for a living. You're likely to be happy with your relationships at work, and maybe even encounter a lot of teachers, or be a teacher yourself. This can also be like a very strong placement for a motivational speaker, someone who guides others, uplifts others, empowers them. You know, like you're definitely someone who's very well aware of how you're perceived, and you really want to be someone who makes a difference and who helps helps others. So at work you can be seen as like this person everybody goes for advice, even if you're not like a classical, you know, teacher. There's definitely going to be a sense of like you're a guru, and you can definitely make a great like professor, teacher, guide, travel agent, judge are just some of the careers that come to mind. If your Jupiter is in Capricorn or Jupiter in the 11th house, so Jupiter actually rejoices in the 11th house because 11th house is the place of community and large groups of people. And so Jupiter here gets access to large groups of people, and it's kind of lovely and wonderful to share wisdom with a group that is bigger than just one-on-one. So here a lot of your focus goes towards getting involved with groups, managing groups, right? It's Jupiter in the sign of kind of ambitious Capricorn, so you would appreciate achievement, you would appreciate being a leader, you would be someone who follows the rules as much as possible. It is Jupiter in its fall, so when Jupiter is in its fall, there may be certain difficulties connected to the houses Jupiter rules and the house Jupiter is in. So if you're struggling with friendships, or if you're struggling with bosses who are kind of too oppressing or misguided, you may consider working with Jupiter, right? And one of the ways of working with Jupiter, mentioned it before, mentioning it now, is doing planetary remediation, and getting a candle from me with Jupiter in Pisces is one of the ways to do that. But basically you're getting kind of by doing it, you're either aligning with a stronger Jupiter or you're bringing it into your life, because this candle was created when Jupiter was in Pisces. Jupiter is not coming back to Pisces until 2033, so I'm not going to make candles of this kind for a while. So you are ambitious, you are friendly, your friends are very important to you, your social standing is very, very important to you, and you can definitely be someone who like uplifts and guides people. But you really need to be mindful, because it's Jupiter in its fall. You need to be mindful of getting opportunities that are giving you the financial side, but maybe not are not fulfilling spiritually, right? This is very much like Jupiter will try to help as always, but it can give you a job that pays you well but you hate, right? Or gives you a job where you become a manager but that's not what you want to do. So you really need to be kind of aware of that. And you can find a lot of success in working for large organizations, government, some kind of corporations, doing maybe finance related work. And another way you can actually work with Jupiter is like doing some volunteer work or like helping other people. Now, if you have your Jupiter in Aquarius or Jupiter in the 12th house represents foreign lands, faraway places. So a lot of times when the ruler of your first house is in the 12th, you may do work, or it also rules your house of work. So you may do work in a foreign place, or you may move to a foreign place. A lot of times having the ruler of the first and the 12th means kind of humble, more challenging beginnings, where your life maybe is full of difficulty, full some kind of losses, or you feel more sensitive. Maybe it's connected to moving to a foreign land, right? Like I have the ruler of my first house in the 12th house, and as a kid, we moved around so much. There was like very little of kind of groundedness. Like I lived in Kazakhstan till I was 6, and I lived in Russia for 3 years. Then I lived in Turkmenistan, then Russia again. So there is like a sense of like shyness and sensitivity and kind of like, like a lot of inner maybe fears that, or lack of confidence early in life that is connected to perhaps the more turbulent environment you had to deal with. As a result, you grow stronger. You kind of seek out things and people outside of yourself. You become more comfortable with traveling and working with foreigners or traveling to foreign lands. You become more secure. And this is also a very strong placement for someone who is very spiritually minded, right? Like you're seeking answers outside of yourself. You're looking for enlightenment, and through difficulty or hardships, you kind of wake up and you become really kind of empowered. And a lot of times this could be a placement of like being a healer, where you're working with people that are 12th housey, right? Like you're working with people in mental asylums and prisons and hospitals. You may do a bunch of your work behind the scenes where you're sort of kind of working in solitude. And yeah, like becoming a healer, I can definitely see here. Becoming a spiritual guide is also quite likely. Leading a charity, guiding people who are struggling and who feel somehow like lost and misunderstood. So all of your difficulty you've been through gives you a lot of knowledge and wisdom that you're happy to share with other people. It's also Jupiter in Aquarius. Aquarius is the sign of like large organizations. So working for a large organization in a foreign land could be an example here. This is it. We talked about Pisces rising, all 12 signs. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it resonated. If you're here, like it and let me know what you thought. Share your thoughts with me. And let me know what you'd like me to talk about next. This is the final rising sign video. I might look at planets through the houses next. Or maybe I started a house series, so maybe I'll do that. But anyways, I'll talk to you soon. Bye.